or something that we just don't use words for in everyday speech. And it seems that in that way, poetry sort of lends itself to that sort of processing. So the first poem from the book I'll read is called Encounter. In shop windows, torsos of mannequins, and a cricket nests in the chest of one. It is not a heart, but longs for its other. Exhaling mist, I push away from this glass. Feel my sex is a sea shell, its slug, small mollusk, shrinking into its own wetness or elongating into a hardness. I think of the male seahorse carrying the female's eggs, birthing thousands of fry, a semen-like spray, out and away with no receptacle except this world submerged. And so the self is multiplied. Once home, I see my face through the fogged bathroom mirror, at the bottom of a teacup, inside polished silver, or at the bulbous end of a long stem wine glass, where my lip meets its, and I remember that it has been made from blown glass, the shape of someone's breath, held. This next one is called A Farmhouse. Rain-stained redwood and eggshell in the hay, I wanted, finally, to shake the stranger's hands, simply without my hands shaking. Sunbirds flit over water, kissing their reflections. Before they dive in for a slender fish, a flash of silver, and here moss gathered along chimneys, nearly glowing in the fog. I could hardly lift my arm to rest it at the small of your back, and only went on to imagine nothing more than touching your hair, neither the color of rust nor ash, but snow, one thick ribbon of winter, cold in my palm, a place I once breathed, myself a warm breath. This next poem is the title poem of the book. It's called Boy with Flowers. My aunt loved me, asked me, will you be the flower girl at my wedding? But I'm not a girl, I argued, and she persuaded me. You'll get to throw rose petals onto the aisle, walk before me, both of us, crushing them beneath our feet, my gown dragging over them. I agreed. I wanted nothing but chivalry. At the church, my mother and I waited in the small room. She brushed my aunt's hair until the dress arrived. Isn't it beautiful? And I agreed until they tried to put me in it. I'd seen my father and uncle earlier, standing in a circle of other men, smoke hovering over their heads, and their voices kind, quiet, and deep. I told my aunt, I want to wear a suit like them. She promised if I wore the dress, I could wear anything I wanted after. Army pants, a sheriff badge, cowboy hat, and pistols. My mother shot her a look in the mirror where we posed. Both of them angelic and white, and me, not yet dressed. Today I wake from another dream in which I have a beard, no breasts, and I'm about to go skinny dipping on a foreign beach with 4 other men. I'm afraid to undress, won't take off my shorts, so they grab me, one at each ankle, the other 2 by each wrist. I am a starfish hardening. The sun hovers above, a hot mirror where I search for my reflection. I close my eyes. It's too intense. The light where my lover is tracing fingertips around 2 long incisions in my chest, each sewn tight with stitches, each a naked stem, flaring with thorns. This one's called Army Tattoos. The They said he liked to gamble, called him a lucky winner. He bet on horses, liked to lie on his belly before a TV, drinking a glass of bourbon or smoking cigars. Thick smoke between his lips, black as the rims of those spectacles sliding off his sweating face. Between commercials, he'd tell stories, one about Job, the other a Japanese prison camp, where he forced himself to eat in the shadows, the maggots hiding in the rice. I understood, and I didn't. I was 10, played barefoot in the backyard desert, drank sun tea with lemon, took naps in the patch of grass we kept trying to grow. I'd wake up frightened that snakes or scorpion babies had crept into my ears, and later I'd sneak and spy the shed skin collected in jars lining the dried shells. Then, inside the house, the hearts that hung purple and beatless from the living room mantel, with so many other medals and photos. With my magic marker, I'd trace onto myself those green dreams of the skull, the black cat, the number 13, tattoos that wrapped around each wrist and forearm. Hidden in the pantry, I draw myself out of that dark, camouflage my skin as his. How you guys doing?
Great.
I wasn't going to read this poem, but I feel like since we're in South Carolina, it's called Magnolia. Associate magnolias with the South, even though I'm from California originally, and we have lots of magnolias like that. For some reason, I'm making this into like a Southern poem. Magnolia. In the cul-de-sac shaded by trees, Marissa and I played all summer where magnolias hung, hands withering over us as we wove between them. In her backyard, we circled the empty, dirty pool where petals and leaves floated, where insects waited. We came to a shed hidden in the back corner of her yard. Jars held pale, slick shapes, cylindrical and bald. Only later I learned were preserved vegetables. Marissa swore they were testicles and a penis, and when I didn't believe her, no, they were fingers, eyes, and tongues her stepfather collected, who later that day I met by mistake. He'd come home early, liquor on his breath, speaking slowly, quietly, and only in Spanish, though I was also in that congested room where every curtain was closed and the air thick with heat, whispering, and Marissa's face stiffening into a mask, glazed with sweat, her eyes cast down as he punched the air, each syllable a balled-up fist. Marissa told me then I wasn't allowed inside her house anymore. Outside, as if to apologize, she picked me a magnolia blossom, and I carried it carefully in my sweating hands, not yet understanding by the time